Good day, everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Amadi Endurance. I'll be talking about the Nigerian general election from 2011 to 2019. And just to let you know, the data that was used for this analysis are all available all over the internet. So you can actually Google them to, perform your own analysis to see if you can actually get this sort of insight or something different from what I'm about to present. So I'll be looking at the 2011 election, and then I'll be talking about 2015, and then I will dwell more on the 2019, and I'll also make recommendation for the 2020 general election. So the first thing we're looking at is the chart that represents the election result for 2011. So the red line here is for the PDP. So the blue line is for the APC, sorry, the CPC under Buhari. So CPC now APC basically. So you notice that in 2011 election, there was a strong urge for Jonathan to continue as a Nigerian president. So that was reflected in the way and the pattern that people voted. And if you look at the states, you notice that from Bayelsa down to Oyo State, Jonathan dominated by a lot. And then you also notice that Buhari started picking up when we started moving towards the northern part of the country. So, and then when it got to Bauchi, that was when he had his highest amount of vote that is being shared. So keep that in mind because we're touching on it as we go along. So in 2015, the chart actually changed a lot. Now, PDP still maintained, under Jonathan, still maintained their strong performance in the south. But one thing we noticed that APC performed way better than how the CPC had performed in the past election. So they replicated what the PDP did here, and then they were able to stretch out down to Ondo. So the big thing there was that Jonathan had the south, but the southwest has moved up to team up with probably the northerners, and hence the election was called in favor of Muhammad Buhari. Now, if we take a deep dive into the performance, within these 2 years, you notice that PDP vote in 2015 changed a lot. So prior to this time, they have maintained more or less a flat surface and a strong surface in the south and southeast region. And then when it comes to the middle belt and the southwest, probably they were able to stay above 50%. But what happened in 2015 is the moment they got to somewhere like Plateau State, there was a sharp drop across down to Brunei. And if you look at what APC did, you'll notice that prior to this time, there's a huge gap in between the how they have performed in the north and how they have performed in the south region. So, and in this big gap, you find your Kogi, you find your Oyo, you find your Ocean, you find your Adamawa, Ogun, Lagos, Benue. So this is mainly the southwest region and the north central region. So what they had to do was just to straighten the curve here, and then instead of having 11%, 20%, they were now having 60 something percent, and the least they had was about 40. So they managed to strengthen the line, and then they won the election. But if you look at that of Jonathan, even if the line was strengthened, but it looks weaker than how it used to be. So just keep this in mind as well. So we will now look at the population across the country in terms of voting strength. So it's not the general population. So this population is just mainly for those who are eligible to vote. So we looked at all the states, and then you will notice that Kano, Lagos, Kaduna, Oyo, and Katsina are above 5 million. Then Rivers State down to um, Zamfara are above 3 million. Then from Zamfara down to Taraba, you get at least more than 2 million votes there, like 2 million people that are eligible to vote. And then Bayelsa is 1.5. So, but keeping this in mind, let's also look at the registration strength, because that will reveal a lot. So if you look at what is happening here, you will notice that despite the fact that Lagos have the Kano had the largest population in terms of vote, Lagos happens to register a lot of people. So in terms of registration, Lagos and Kano have more than 5 million people that are already registered. Then if you come down to Kaduna, Katsina, and Rivers, they have more than 3 million people registered. Now if you keep going down, you'll notice that Bayelsa and Ekiti have less than 1 million. So, I mean, one will definitely want to, focus their attention more on the side with the numbers in terms of registration. But let's also look at how they voted in 2019. So in terms of voting, you'll notice that Kano came out on top. Kaduna, Katsina, Jigawa before Lagos, despite the fact that Lagos have more registered voters. They didn't, people drastically refused to come out to vote, and then that is being reflected in the result. And then when it comes to the actual voting itself, Abia State was the least because it gave just less than 300,000 votes, or a little bit more than 300,000. Now, putting this all in one, you actually get a picture of what I'm saying here. Now, Bayelsa 1.5, registered 900, voted 300,000. Lagos, Kaduna, 8.7 population, registered 5.5, voted 1.9. Now, Lagos registered 8.3, population 8.3, registered 6.6, voted 1 million. So this shows a clear understanding that yes, the population is there. Yes, people are registering. The registration is very good. But when it comes to actually voting, there is a huge, huge problem with that. Now, we'll look at this in a different way so that we understand what I'm talking about. So using percentage to represent everything. So this means that in terms of registration, Nasarawa have more people registered in terms of their population. So 97% of the population is registered. If you go onto this chart and look for Nasarawa, you will notice that where are they? So let me see if I can find them. Can't even see properly. Yeah, look at it, Nasarawa, 1.7 million population, 1.6 is already registered, and then their voting strength is 600 million, 600,000 rather. So this shows that Nasarawa looks strongest in terms of those who are registered. So if, for example, you are looking at, okay, where can we get the vote? Nasarawa can actually easily give you a medium vote because 1.6 million is registered. So you don't need to struggle to tell people to go and register there. So the work done here is almost 100%. So let's go back to this. So Nasarawa, Plateau, Taraba, and Edo all have over 80% registration. Now, if you go down to the bottom, you have Ekiti 42%, you have Abuja 47%, you have Chigawa, Kogi. But one thing we should all bear in mind is, let's look at the southeast, for example, Enugu, Abia, Imo, and even Ebonyi. Where is Ebonyi State? Let's look for Ebonyi State. Yeah, Ebonyi State. In terms of registration, the awareness is there. They've done loads of registration. But then where we have problem is when people comes out to vote. So it's not all about being registered to vote. The problem there is being able to vote. The next chart I'm going to present will actually explain that better. So this is just similar to the chart we've seen above, but then this would actually show you what I meant. So Nasarawa is 97% registered, and then when it comes to Ekiti is 41% registered, 42% registered. But when it comes to the election day proper, despite the fact that 42% of 41%, 42% of the Ekiti people are registered to vote, 41% of out of the 42% actually vote on that day. So what this means is that for a place like Ekiti, if they manage to get more of their population registered, there's every likelihood that you actually have the vote because they turn out to vote. But places like Edo, Abia, Lagos, Ebonyi, despite the fact they have high, you know, um, amount of people registered, but when it comes to the election day proper, you start seeing 15%, 12% of the population, 15%, and then you lose out a massive amount of vote as a result of that. So my suggestions to people who are, you know, looking at various beings to win election is to actually find out the reason why it has always been like this. The election result we see on the election day does not actually tell us the the causation of what is really happening. So, but this will just tell you that yes, people have been registered in this region, but what is happening? And if you look at the core notes, the northerners, despite the fact that not all of them are registered, are always coming out to vote. This is where the strength lies. They are always there trying to vote, trying to vote. You see them every now and then coming out in masses. Whereas if you go towards the south and the southeastern region, everybody sits at home. Nobody wants to vote. And then it just shows that you have the right to exercise your vote, but you deliberately refuse to do it. Now let's look at the results. So the results this time looked different. In 2011, we had the South-South region on high for the winning candidate. But now APC has maintained their candidate, which is Buhari as well, and then PDP brought a different candidate, Atiku. Now, when Atiku came on board, um, we expected him to do a little bit more in the northern region. But if you look at his performance overall in the northern region, they are quite shocking, considering the fact that he is from the north. And then we expected a situation whereby he will also dominate the south like Jonathan has done, but he failed to do that. So even if he won majority of the south, none of them was up to 1 million vote. So 500,000 was the maximum, and that was from Delta State. So even River State gave him 475,000 vote. So what this actually meant is that PDP, yes, maintained their gubernatorial seats in the region, but in terms of delivering the president, they were way, way behind, considering the fact that the northern state, which is APC controlled for the past two elections, has maintained and even strengthened their position in the north. So let's break this down into what might likely, be the cause. So the first thing we had to look at is the percentage share of vote against registered voters. Now, this what you're saying here is just the share of vote on the election day. Okay, the results. But this is against registered voters. Now, against registered voters, that is vote that is in every region. Castina, for example, Buhari had against every registered voter that is registered in the whole state, 38%. And then you are seeing Article 9%. Now, when you also journey through to the southern region, for example, or the southeast region where you have the Abia, Enugu, Anambra, you will see that this is where we are expecting, a massive change for the PDP, but instead they were, because people deliberately refused to come out to vote, you will notice that they struggled in this region. So APC, for example, knew that they're not going to win this state, so there is no need concentrating on this state. But they concentrated on where they think they are solid, and they pulled out people to come and vote in mass, especially those who were registered, and they voted. And before PDP could know what is happening, from my observations, the election was over. So we'll also look at the percentage share of vote. So this chart here is different from this chart. Now the reason for that is because this particular chart is just for the election that was, casted on that day. So basically this is for the share of result. So you notice that in some core states like Borno, Yobe, Katsina, Bauchi, Kebbi, APC was having a lot of, over 70%, 78% of the vote. And then, yes, PDP looks solid when you start moving towards the RBNs, the Ebonyi, the River State, and so on. But what you should know is, despite the fact they look solid, the number of votes looks very, very small. So this actually shows you what I mean. So for example, the population, this is a percentage against the population. So we all know that the population of River State from the previous chart I showed you is more than 5 million people that are eligible to vote, and only 14 million people voted. And then you look at the state like Katsina that had 3 million, and then 23 million people voted. And then if you look at it, so APC has maintained one strategy: strengthen the north, strengthen your vote from the north, let it be as solid as possible. Then when we go into the south west region, we'll begin to balance it out a little bit, knowing fully well that they will lose out the south and the southeast. So they do everything to maximize the population there, whereas we that are in the whereas those in the southeast region does not do a lot to maximize their vote. So this actually shows you that yes, it's possible for PDP to win the election. It's possible for anybody to win the election, but the strategy that they're using is what makes the difference. So let's jump down to the percentage share. So you notice that 11 million was for PDP, 15 million was for APC, and then 272,000 was for others. Now, how did the APC vote? This chart will show you how the APC voted. Now, APC voted all their strong states: Katsina, Yobe, Borno, Jigawa, Kebbi. And the percentage share against the population is 14% and above. So across Nigeria, APC ensured that for every state they are winning, 14% of the population should at least vote for all their state. Now let's look at PDP. So for PDP, you have Plateau, you have Taraba, you have Nasarawa, you have Delta, you have Anambra, you have Ebonyi. But now 9% of their vote, less than 10% of their population votes. So this region you're looking at for APC, their population strength, at least 14% of their population is voting. And then for the PDP region, 9% of their population is voting. So what this tells you is that if PDP could get, for example, this region, when I mean the region I'm talking about are those who gives them their most of their vote. If PDP could get up to 15% of the population to, to vote for them, they will easily win the election. And I'm sure APC is also looking at situations where they can actually get even more people that are registered to vote. So we have been able to establish the fact that a lot of people are registered, but they are not voting. So, and in places where a lot of people are not registered, they are also voting. So this is one thing to keep in mind. So we'll now look at against vote that is being casted. Now, if you look on the far right, you have the Kano, Kaduna, Katsina, and then you have the Lagos with all their population. they were able to cast a lot of vote. So you, on the left hand side here, you have a lot of clusters. So what every party or strategist or anybody that is looking at how the election should go is how to move a lot of people from this region to the uppermost region. So basically that would be getting more of their areas. Okay, let's look at, yeah, so I'll give you an example, but let me just finish where I have to say getting more of their states to be in the upper limit. Now look at Kaduna and Kano, for example. APC won the state easily, and they won with a lot of votes as well. So, and the reason for that is because they were able to turn out at least 1.5 million votes each. Okay, so this chart will summarize everything I'm about to say, and then I'm open to comments, suggestions, and feedbacks on this presentation basically. So I have divided these every state into 4 categories. Now the first category are the states that are probably if we are in the if it's a football team, you call them the big league, Champions League. So here you have Kano, Kaduna, Katsina, Lagos. You have Plateau, Bauchi, and Jigawa. Now what you have here is people who can give you above, who have more than 2 million registered voters and can give you above 1 million votes. That's what you have here. So a state like Lagos have more than 6 million registered voters, and they can easily give you more than 1 million votes. A place like Kano, 5 point something million registered voters, and they can easily give you more than 1.5 million votes. So hence, you have to make sure you maximize every opportunity for people to come out and vote, for especially those in this region. Now, another interesting region to look at are the people like TAG, underperformers, despite the fact that they have all it takes to be able to make a good what's it called, election. So, but you look at states like River State with more than 3 million registered voters, giving you 600 million vote. That is not complete. That is not acceptable. If you are looking at elections, if you're looking at a situation whereby River State, they have the capacity, they have more than 2 million registered voters. So ideally, they should be in this category. So what you should be looking at is all the states here that have more than 2 million registered voters. Sure, how do we get them to give us at least more than 1 million votes? Regardless of the party, how do we make people to come out and vote in mass to make sure that they will belong to this category? The number is there, so how do we maximize it? That is the big question. Now, the third set is the group 3, which is those who have less than 2 million votes, but they can give you more than 500,000 votes. So less than 2 million registered voters, but they can give you more than 500,000. So that's where you have this Sokoto, Adamawa, Kebbi, Taraba. Now, pay close attention to this. This is where most of the middle belt falls in, where you have your Kogi, Ondo, you have places like Oshun, but then when you look at this, they have 1.5 million, 1.6 million registered voters, and at the same time, they are turning about 850k votes. So ideally, with a little push, most of these states should be giving you at least 1 million votes. That's one thing I am confident about. They should be giving you more than 1 million votes. Yes, I know most of them are performing more than those who have the capacity, but then if you don't want to spend more time here because most states here are doing their best. But where we should be worried are the people that falls into this final category, like the Bayelsa, and then the Abia State. Then you have the Enugu, Cross Rivers, Kwara, and then you have Ekiti and Ebonyi. So these people have less than 2 million registered voters, and they're giving you less than 500,000 votes. Now, apart from Ekiti, and Bayelsa that have less than 1 million registered voters, we can clearly say that Ebonyi can give us more than they are giving us currently. Abia State can give us more than they are giving us currently. Enugu State as well. So in order to win election, basically, all you need to do is to try to maximize the amount of voters. How do you do it? You do it by letting people know that it's not just having the voters card, you just need to come out and vote. And then you get a lot of people who are not registered to get registered, and ensure that the percentage of those that voted should be at least up to or more than half of those that are registered, you know. And I know a lot of people will say that our elections, especially in the South, are mad with a lot of violence and things like that. But then I think we should also work with the governments to make sure that they could give us a conducive environment for people to exercise their freedom and their rights to vote. So let me know what you think. Let me know what your thoughts are, and let me know if you understood. You were able to understood something different from what I have said, and able to pick out something entirely different. And if you need a copy of this chat, feel free to request it. I'll send it to you, and then feel free to share this across various political platforms. Show them that this is what is happening if people don't vote, and then hopefully our next general election in 2023 will look different. So my next video will just be on how each candidate will influence the outcome of the region. So is one to keep an eye on. We are still gathering the data on how to do that, and we are still gathering because that will be done with a lot of assumptions as well. So we'll be mirroring a lot of things. So we'll be able to tell you what we think every state should do or every political party should do to win the election. So, but this is just a general overview of what the election is all about and how we have voted for the past 3 elections. And then to cap it up, I think the bottom line here is those who are registered should try to vote, and those who are not registered to try to get registered and then try to vote as well. That's the bottom line, and that's the message. Thank you very much for spending your time. So feel free, like I said once again, to comment and then drop me your feedback. Thank you. God bless.